So at the moment, we're keeping this game pretty, it's blocky and basic, and that's great. That's what we need at this stage, and I think it's important to not run before you can walk with this sort of stuff. That make your level fun, get it as good as it can before you start adding extra stuff. But perhaps you want to have some reason for the player to be curious about this object. So if you click on here, you can start adding effects which will change the way it looks, and that could be quite good for you. So there's all kinds to play with here, and again, you can't break it. If it doesn't work, take the effect off. Whoop-de-doo, it doesn't matter. So I'm gonna say, what am I gonna chuck on here to see if it works, just to see if it makes something interesting. Water. Add an animated water surface. Water ripple. Let's see what that does. Let's see if it makes it. And okay, that's a bit bleh. But again, we're experimenting. I'm gonna get rid of the water ripple one, and I'm gonna say warp, something like that. Perhaps was there a warp one there? Warp object. I think that could be quite good. And we're just gonna see what it does. We can decide what it's gonna do, how it's gonna look. Okay, so that's starting to look a bit more like a weird object and an effect. If you were thinking about games design, perhaps you'd make it look more like perhaps you'd have something that sort of make it a symbol that looks like it can double jump or something like that. But yeah, you can play around with them, play around with these, see if there's anything that makes it look interesting. But one I am going to show you, and this is a few steps, but it's an easy way of making the game look a little bit nicer. And what that is we're going to use something called shadow cast. And to do that, we're going to add a light to the game. So we're going to double click and we're going to look for shadow light, and we're going to choose where we're going to put it. And once we do that, nothing is happening yet, because again, we haven't told the game, hey, the rest of the objects need to cast a shadow. And yeah, I know that might seem a little bit odd, but it's something you get used to. So we're going to highlight all the objects we need, and I'm doing that by, I'm grabbing this one, I'm holding shift, clicking to ground, and then I'm holding control to get to platform, shift again, power, just hold control then, that's the easiest way. And now I've done that, we've got them all highlighted, so I can add a behavior to all of them at once. And the behavior I'm going to add is shadow caster. And what this will do is it should make every object cast a shadow. And now it's creating this sort of quite odd effect. It hasn't done it for, so it worked on my player. I must not have had them highlighted. Add shadow caster to them. Add a shadow caster to our power up, and it's creating this weird, it's basically creating a shadow, but you'll see what happens with the player. It's almost creating this weird sort of 3D effect where it almost suddenly looks like you're now playing as a tower, and it's doing it around the light, which, okay, fine. So we're going to do a couple of things. We're going to get this to follow the player wherever it's going, and to do that, where we've used seconds in the system before, we're going to use a new one, and this one is going to be called, to measure time, we're going to say every tick. And every tick is sort of runs the actions once every tick, aka always. So every tick is it's still a calculation of time, but it's sort of almost happening too quick for us. That's not quite how it works, but for us, that's fine at this point. So right, add action. So now we're going to set this object. We're going to say set position to another object, and we're going to stick it on our player. So if we click done, so what's going to happen now is this shadow is going to follow our player along. And can you see it's created this almost quite bizarre effect, to be honest. But we're going to manipulate it, and we're going to play with it in a sec. But it's just a way of making things look a little bit prettier, or just a very quick way of just making it look perhaps a little bit more interesting. Again, another time, a later date, we might do adding art, adding dust particles, all of that kind of stuff. But for now, we're going to keep it simple. So first, we're going to go to our layout, click here, click effects, not effects, behaviors. We're going to get rid of the shadow caster for this one because we want to be able to see it. And yeah, let's get rid of it for our pickup as well. So that way we kind of know anything we're touching or playing with works like that. Now at the moment, everything else is completely black. And that's to do with this thing called Z order, which we have... Something else has been affecting it. You might notice when we go through the door, if I jump into the door is... if I turn off the windscreen bit, again, right click, toggle disabled, I'll press play. Let's take a look. Jump. With the doors in front of us, and that's to do with this thing called Z order, which is the way the game understands where things are. So right click, Z order, send to top of layer, and that way now we'll be in front of the door. Yeah, there we go. So the reason why these are all not green now is because this light is sort of on top of it, which means that it's projecting it in a slightly odd way. So if we go Z order, send to bottom of layer, what we should have now is the shadows eking out from behind. And you can set the strength of these and the color of them. So if we click on here, we can go to where are we? Behaviors somewhere. Where's my shadow caster? Height tag. We can set the height of it, so we can make those shadows a lot smaller, which you might want to do. There we go. So yeah, you've set them a lot smaller, and you can change the color of the shadows. You do it from here. You do it from the light itself, so you can change the color of the shadows, and you can also change sort of the so you can change the shadows. You can make it sort of lighter color if you want. We can't preview in the free edition, that's fine. Cast from, don't worry about that. So you can set it with different items. You can sort of make these lighter things, which just give it sort of just a bit more of an interesting effect. With setting the color as well, it might look nicer if you change the background color. And to do that, you go project properties, splash color, theme color. So the background color is black. What's going on here? Splash color. Where's the bit I need? So press Control Z. I'm not sure why it's doing that. All right, we'll do something else. We'll do it this way around. We'll insert layer below, and we will call this layer BG layer for background. And we're going to rename this one. Right, we're going to rename this one player layer. And on the background layer, we're going to add a sprite. And we're going to make that sprite a darker color. Sprite, and we're going to call this background. And we're just going to make it one block color and then drag it across the whole level. And we're going to make this... And again, you can think about palettes. You can go further with sort of palettes, colors. Something like this. It's a very simple block game. I'd use as minimum colors as possible. And we can see it's there. So we're going to just drag right across the whole thing. So there's no room for error. And we can see, can't we, that the player layer still has an issue. And the reason why is because its appearance here. Okay, I was looking at the whole project layer rather than the player layer. Transparent. And then if we jump in, there you go. So you're starting to look like it is somewhere. You don't have to use the shadow caster behavior. You can do whatever you want. Yeah, there you go. You've got the double jumping along. You've got platforms. So you now know how to move some platforms around, make some quite interesting effects. You can do quite a lot, really. So I think at this point, just have fun with it, keep messing around.